What's going on, guys? It's Jacob here, the Dub Doctor. So I have a buddy's car here. We have a 2017 Audi S3. The customer, my friend, just bought it, and he bought it from a dealership, and he was told, or the car was advertised to him, that it was stock, no aftermarket parts on it. So he bought the car, he's been driving it. Come to find out, he threw a check engine light, it started misfiring, started running a little bit weird. Brought it to me to have me check it out, and we found out that the car has a aftermarket downpipe and a cold air intake on it. Obviously the cold air intake isn't going to affect the running of the vehicle too much, but a aftermarket downpipe without a proper software recalibration tune is going to make the engine run a little weird. So we obviously are going to go with some different engine software. We're going to go with Unitronic software on this car, ECU and DSG tune, so transmission and engine tune. And then we are upgrading to some APR coil packs. You can see here, nice racing red. And then we've got APR's ignition coil, spark plugs here. So before we just go ahead and slap these in the car, I've already got the old plugs and coils out. I'm going to make sure that the gap is right for the software we're going to be running. So double checked with APR and Unitronic, both of which on their websites they say they want their gaps to be set to 0.024, which is 0.06 millimeters. So we're going for this measurement right here. If you can see that, 0.024. So I have a few different methods that I like to use for when it comes time to gapping your plugs before you throw them in the engine. You have your cheap little coin and whatever you want to call this guy. Let's see, spark plug gap gauge tool. Really, I like to use this one only for this function right here. You have the ability to grab the ground strap and pry it open a little bit. I'll show you how I do that in a minute, because I believe these are a little bit too tight than what we want to be running with the tune. And then you have the coin style, which everybody should have an idea of how these work, but basically you have a lipped edge right here that gets larger as you go around. So you basically put the strap in there and then you start rotating the plug around the coin. So let's start this process and I'll show you how I go about doing it. So like I said, we've got our APR plugs here. I'm going to set these empty boxes to the side, out of our way. And we've got the nice fresh APR coils. I'll leave these right here just for a little beauty shot conversation piece while we're watching this video together. And let's get into it. So basically the first step is going to be seeing where we're at. So I'm going to just start with where we're shooting for, which is that 0.24 measurement here. 0.24. It's kind of hard to pick it up. There you go. There's a good reflection. So grab our plug, nothing real fancy, and we're going to try and insert this in here. And as I expected, this is having a hard time actually fitting in there, so that means that we're too tight right here. I'm going to check the rest of these. Again, that one's too tight. Pretty sure all of these are going to be too tight. That one's close. Too tight. That's what she said. So, what do you do when the gap is too tight? Obviously, you're used to making the gap smaller by either tapping it on something or using a set of some of these tools that I have set up here. So, the little cheap coin actually comes in handy big time, because you have this hole here that you're able to stick the ground strap in, just like so. You kind of insert it through the bottom, and then you use the coin to pry up. You also have this guy allows you to, it has a couple different cutouts here depending on what it is that you need. And then basically the same ordeal. You're just going to kind of slowly, gently pry that up with paying attention to make sure you're not damaging the actual ground strap. You figure out which slot it is that works best for you. Or in the past, I've used just a simple pocket screwdriver. So pretty much every mechanic DIY is going to have a little small pocket screwdriver like this. Same deal, you just kind of get it in there and you just gently pry that strap up some. So the goal here is to pry it up and then see if we can get it to fit. So you see that? Just that little bit of prying there, I've gotten this to be able to accept that. It seems like I still need to go a little bit more. There's a little too much resistance there. So you can see, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it kind of starts to bend down. You want it to be just like a straight shot through there. So we're going to open this up a little bit more, and I'll try it with the coin method. I don't really use the coin method that much. I normally, to be honest with you, use the pocket screwdriver just because it's always sitting out. It's always pretty readily available. So sorry about that. Got a phone call in the middle of shooting a little video here. I'm famous. What can I say? I'm just kidding. I'm not famous. But it was actually my mom and dad. They're in town and they want to come hang out. So I'm going to finish this up and we're going to go do that. So I am a little bit of a normal boy. Still talking to mom and dad and enjoying my life with them. So back to using this guy. I think this guy is honestly the one that I kind of go to the most, because it has so many different options and it actually works pretty good in your hand to give you that leverage that you're looking for. So basically you just kind of get this guy under the ground strap here, and you just kind of take into account that you don't want to damage anything, so you're just super careful and you just lightly pry it up. You don't really have to put that much pressure, and it feels like you might not be doing anything, but I promise you are. So you just want to kind of do a little bit and check and see where you're at. So you can see there, that's our point 24. Point 24. This guy fits in there like a glove now. So that might think you're done, right? No, because you want it to have the slightest amount of resistance going into each one of these ground straps. Kind of off camera, I did all four of these, so all four of these are just loosely fitting in here now. So now what I'm going to do is show you how do you close it up. Some people might tell you, oh, you just kind of tap, 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 or you get like a little tool or something and you just tap, tap, tap. That works and all, but it just seems wrong and it's not really the correct way to do it. So I purchased this little universal gap tool, spark plug gap tool off Amazon. It was super cheap. I want to say it was like 20 bucks maybe. So I've been using it a lot lately. I really have been slacking on buying myself one because I've done it the way that everyone else does. I would just kind of push it against a hard surface like a table. This is a wooden table with a pig mat on here. Just kind of push it and that would get me by, but I kind of like to do things the right way. If you haven't noticed on some of my other videos, I like to do stuff, you know, the right way, make it look fancy, all that stuff. So this to me makes it feel fancy. So basically you screw this guy loose and it allows you to drop the plug all the way down in here. You can see it is fully recessed down in the tool now. It just drops right into place once you get it in the groove right, and it's got a nice little spot for the plug to sit in, the porcelain part. And then it's pretty self-explanatory, so you're just going to slowly draw this screw in until you feel it touch, right? And you're just going to want to kind of screw a little bit tight and then back off. Take your plug out of there, and then you're going to check with your feeler gauge that same 0.24 and feel where we're at. I'm still a little too loose here, so what we're going to do, put it back in here and do that one more time. You'll actually see the ground strap moving a little bit when you're doing this. Back it back off. You can just leave the plug in the tool and just feel where you're at. Still a little too loose, so we're going to bring it a little bit tighter. Maybe do a little bit further of a turn this time. Alright, that looks good. Alright, I think we've gotten it here. So same 0.024 millimeter, or thousandths of an inch, excuse me. This is 0.6 millimeter. So I believe we've gotten it where we want it now. So I'm just catching a little bit of resistance when I put that in there. And that's basically telling me this is almost damn near the exact same size as the gap between our ground strap and the little diode in there. So that one's good. You just kind of repeat that process 3, 4, 6, 8 more times, depending on how many cylinders you have in your car, obviously. Drop the plug in there, screw this guy tight. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy or worrisome. It's a very easy process that anybody can really do. Screw it a little tight, back it off, feel where you're at. Let me just show you this one like kind of real quick, how fast and easy it can be to do all 4. A little bit further, this one should be it. You're just kind of bending it slowly. And obviously when you release the tool, it kind of wants to bend back a little bit, so you're just slowly bending it in until it gets to the right spot where you want the gap. That one is a little too tight, so I'm just going to barely loosen this one up, just barely. See if it'll fit. A little bit more. Okay, that one's done. See where we're at? This one's very loose. Drop that plug in there. And same deal, we're gonna screw it tight and loosen it up. See where we're at with our feeler gauge. I hope this is enjoyable for you guys. I'm not all just information. A little too tight, dang it. Open it back up just a little bit. This is what I mean, it's kind of like a playing back and forth game, you know? You kind of just have to deal with it and persevere through gapping of your plugs. That one's done. Gotta tighten that one up some. But having the right tools makes this a whole lot easier, you know? Having the right tools to work on an Audi, imagine that. Audi, Volkswagen, you have one too many special tools required to do your jobs. Granted, this isn't really a Volkswagen Audi specific special tool, but you know what I mean. At least I do. You need special tools for literally everything you do on these cars. It's kind of ridiculous. But when you have those tools that are right for the job, it makes the job so much easier, I swear. A little bit more. Just a hair more. Okay. Ooh, don't want to drop it. So that's all 4 of our plugs installed, or not installed, but gapped correctly. And that is how you're going to gap your plugs. So basically, in recap, so you've got your plugs here, you've got your little gap tool. This is a cheap Amazon one that I got. It actually came with a nice little feeler gauge as well. I can try and link this up, but this is exactly the gap tool that I bought off of Amazon. 14 millimeter, 16 millimeter plugs in red, made in China. I kind of hate that part, but it was cheap. I couldn't deny it. And it came with this feeler gauge, so that's awesome. You have this little plug gap gauge tool. It does have some little common sizes for gaps. I never use that. I literally just use the spot right here. You can use a pocket screwdriver and you can use a coin, all for increasing the gap. So this guy increases the gap with a little pry. I can use this guy to increase the gap, and you can use the hole in the coin to increase the gap. And then I have some other random feeler gauges over here that I use for different types of jobs. But yeah, so that is how you basically gap your plugs. We are going to now install the plugs on our engine over here, install the plugs, and install the coils. And then we're going to match that with the ECU TCU software. You can see here we're running a CTS downpipe on this car here. So, yep, I'm excited. Let's get these plugs installed and then we will finish up. All right guys, and as you can tell, we've got our plugs and coils installed. Everything is gapped and installed correctly. And we have just finished up installing our Unitronic ECU and DSG software to pair with the hardware parts we have on the vehicle. Gonna go give this guy a quick test drive and make sure everything is okay, but that concludes today's video of how to gap spark plugs on a performance application. So thanks for watching, I appreciate it, and hope to see you guys back in some more videos.